and welcome to Justice Losers, the most unqualified podcast exploring irrelevant questions about entertainment, namely movies, TVs, and comics. I'm your host, Preston, joined as always by my delightful co-host,
Batman.
We are talking about Black Widow. That's the movie. I almost stuttered and didn't remember the name of it. We're going to talk about Black Widow. If you've never heard one of our reviews before, the way we're going to do this is we're going to have two sections. We're going to have the non-spoiler section first. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about everything that is not going to spoil the movie for you so that you can decide if you want to then go see it later. Mm-hmm. Which I think our general verdict is you should see this one.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to have a hard cutoff. We're going to do a little bit about spoilers for like a solid 30 seconds to give you a chance to sprint across the room because you weren't actually paying attention and shut your computer off. Mm-hmm. And each section, for this one and for most other ones, will be split into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Mm-hmm. Not talking about that movie. Where we talk about everything we liked about it, everything we didn't like about it, and then anything that deviates from source material. You haven't read source material for Black Widow, have you?
Not in the slightest. I did about 3 seconds of Wikipediaing early, so
all right. So we will have a very
be good to
skimpy
go.
Ugly. So be ready for that. Mm-hmm. Other than that, Matt,
Preston,
what'd you think?
I really liked it.
I liked it too.
I was expecting it to be fine, just mid-tier Marvel, just over and done with.
I mean, the thing is, mid-tier Marvel is still good. Annoyingly so.
Yeah, I don't think it's mid-tier Marvel, though. I think it's comfortably a cut above.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We've talked briefly about, or repeatedly about kind of tiers of the movies, of the Marvel movies. Where would you put this in your tiers?
Mostly tears of happiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Occasionally some tears of sadness at some of the more emotional moments, but a lot of tears of happiness.
What other movies? What tier? T-I-E-R.
Well, I'm trying to think how to do this because, I mean, everyone's own rankings are subjective. And if I say, oh, I liked it as much as Black Panther, no one means that that's like, if that's top 2 for me or top 10 or whatever. It's probably about top third.
Okay.
Marvel movie for me. I think I'd put it about on par with Black Panther, which I really liked but had a few issues with.
Yep.
And what are other Marvel movies?
Yeah. There's so many now.
So many that's just starting
Ant-Man,
to clog up.
like my equivalent was Ant-Man.
Okay.
Like,
so I would have this comfortably
movie.
above Ant-Man.
Okay. I liked Ant-Man. I think... Well, let's talk about what got it to there for us. What stuck out to you, first of all, of like what sticks out to you now after, what was that, probably 24 hours?
Yeah, roughly 24 hours. They totally just made a Mission Impossible movie. Like,
kind of did.
Down to the opening credits being like drawn out with the little clips and cuts and stuff. Super just like cold open, Mission Impossible style, long credits with the theme music.
And the montage of
stuff.
Yep.
Action set pieces, big showy action set pieces. There's a little plot object that is the focus. That's
the MacGuffin.
It's actually not technically a MacGuffin.
Oh.
MacGuffin, the coin was termed by Alfred Hitchcock, means something that is...
The coin was termed?
The coin was termed.
Did you know you said that?
This is going to be a long day, folks.
Anyway, what's a MacGuffin?
A MacGuffin is a plot object that initially motivates the plot, but eventually becomes irrelevant over the course of the plot.
Oh.
It's something that doesn't have any meaning in itself.
So what's
in the
a perpetually relevant MacGuffin?
Yeah, so there have been some different terms to describe how this object, I call it like a plot object or something like that.
Right.
Where it's something, I don't know, what's a good example? The Death Star plans from A New Hope.
Okay.
They're a small singular object that everyone's trying to get, but they are very important throughout the plot, and they're important for what they are.
Very obvious single, very small object that everyone wants and is very important to the plot.
The Infinity Stones?
The ring?
The ring? I mean, yeah, no, that's like...
I'm surprised that, like, because the Death Star plans are... I feel like they're less of a... This is not the movie we're talking about.
Not the movie we're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, they totally made a Mission Impossible movie. And as far as Mission Impossible movies go, they made a pretty good one.
They made a good one. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. They didn't make a 1990s.
I mean, there's only been one bad Mission Impossible movie, so.
And that's Fallout. I loved the family dynamic between the two sisters.
Yes.
Essentially.
Absolutely.
Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson have phenomenal sister chemistry.
Yeah.
That was just so much fun. Just like, it's just something about the writing I felt like was more... The dialogue felt more natural than a lot of things that I've watched.
Mm-hmm.
There's specifically one scene where it's post-action scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's their first kind of actual reconnection as characters.
Right.
You know exactly what scene
I think I know what scene you're talking about.
Where it just felt natural.
Yeah.
Like, it felt real. And I couldn't hear the writing in it, which I think is a thing that that sticks out to me a lot when there's bad writing, is you can hear the writing in it.
Yeah.
You can hear, like, it's like...
It's like seeing the wires when someone's doing a stunt.
Right, yeah.
You figure out how... Yeah.
And so... there's one scene specifically that does a very good job of that, but it's kind of throughout, including like towards the end.
Yeah.
Taskmaster was so cool.
Love the character design.
Oh my god. And like the stunts and just like just all of it all around. I had a minor issue with the reveal about who Taskmaster is. But like the character Taskmaster was so dope.
Yes.
And they didn't overdo I think there was really only three parts that was, it's an Avengers copy.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it was a seamless integration of all the fighting styles.
Yeah.
It didn't just feel like it was like, oh, they're Hawkeye right now. Oh, they're Black Panther right now. Oh, they're like...
Yeah.
And all of the minor analyses of Black Widow when they're fighting, like head tilt and then Taskmaster tilted their head.
Yep.
Like just tiny stuff like that was so cool to watch.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just like geeking out now.
I also just want to say how terrifying it's got to be a villain on the wrong side of Captain America after seeing that shield get thrown at characters we care about.
Oh, yeah.
There's some scenes where I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And he goes whistling past.
I mean, I think the thing, like, they kind of did it with this one where Taskmaster threw the shield way harder. Mm-hmm. Like, Cap would never throw the shield so hard that it would embed itself in a solid foot I-beam. That happened in the movie, where it was like halfway through a foot wide.
That's the particular throw I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's got some punch behind it.
Yeah. So that was but Taskmaster was so cool.
Yeah.
What else? The writing was good. All the effects looked fantastic.
Yeah.
There was never a moment that I was just like, green screen, like, because sometimes you can kind of.
Yeah. I mean, Marvel generally puts a ton of money and time into their effects. And it looked really good.
There weren't any particular scene, like, visual set pieces that stuck out to me. I think the reason I liked Black Panther a little bit more than this one is because just there was so much just glorious, like, scene, like, landscapes. The ancestral plane thing was ancestral plane? Is that right?
Probably.
Was beautiful, like all the like African just landscapes and stuff are cool, but there really weren't any of that. This one felt more urban, which makes sense.
No, I mean, it is done just more as a spy movie kind of thing, Mission Impossible, if you will. There were some set pieces that I liked. I think on average the big difference between it and the Mission Impossible movie, would be they traded off some of the action spectacle for some character, I think.
Which pays off.
Yeah, I think it works really well. Works in its favor. But the action was merely good.
Yeah.
Not spectacular.
It handled the feeling of they're like the lack of letting your guard down really well. Especially in, what would that be, the first 20 minutes? There's one scene that's just like, even I didn't see it coming kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then just the, like, always on the move. It didn't feel anxious. Like you're, like it would be like you're on a timeline and stuff like that.
Right.
But it didn't feel like you could ever let your guard down. Even the scenes where like they did kind of let their guard down, you're like, there were shots the camera would focus on someone that was just like a background character, and you're like, who's that? They explain it later, but like,
right,
just stuff like that. Like you could feel Nat and
Yelena.
You could feel them looking over their shoulders all the time.
Yeah. And it was really great filmmaking from that sense, where it captures what it's like to be them. It's you're constantly a little bit on edge. You're confident, you're generally in control of the situation, but you're also looking over your shoulder at every turn.
Yeah.
And as long as we're talking about filmmaking and just editing and directing, this had a lot of energy.
Oh yeah.
It was just driving throughout. Like, I was edge of my seat within 5 minutes.
Yep.
Easy. Which, let me also just say, segueing out of that, cold open was masterful.
So the cold open was,
in the past.
Yeah. Right? Yes. Now I'm remembering. Oh, okay. I was thinking of the next opening.
Oh.
But yes. Yeah. That was really good.
Yeah.
Now that that was good.
Yep.
Can't really say much about it because it
well,
kind of spoils a little bit of
I want to dig into it in spoilers a little bit, but really well done.
I was curious how they were going to approach Nat being the unsuperpowered person. And Yelena was the perfect character to just throw all the commentary about it at.
Yeah.
Like, just her way of, like, roasting Nat about...
You're an Avenger now.
Huh?
You're an Avenger now.
Well, I mean, it's
Why
not
don't you
really
get your space god friend to come help us?
Yeah, that one was a really good one. It's just like, the big ones. And she was like, who are the big ones? And she's like, I doubt the god from space needs an aspirin after a fight.
Great line.
Which is such a good line.
Yeah.
And just like mocking her posing and just generally superhero stuff. Like, it felt like it could pull back from the superhero genre because it was, it's the main character is the bridge between the superheroes and the normal people.
Right.
And then the other characters were still somewhat normal characters or normal people. And so you kind of got a little bit of that. I mean, you probably get some of that in like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe, except they ended up with Ghost Rider, so I'm not really entirely confident that
Ghost Rider and aliens and
or superpowered. But no, it felt like they had something to say about superheroes,
right?
And they said them.
Yeah, no, it worked well.
Yeah. What else?
Music was pretty good.
Music was good. Yeah.
Wasn't like overwhelmingly, wow, this is awesome, but
yeah, I was a little disappointed by the theme in general. I didn't like the theme.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple different ideas going on. I think I picked out a couple of Russian folk songs that were part of the melodies there.
Okay.
At least there were a couple of tunes that sounded really familiar and sounded like Russian folk songs. So, which would make sense.
Yeah.
You know, given the setting and the characters generally.
I liked generally how each character of the family has their own opinions about the past.
Yeah.
Based on roles they were in and like how old they were and stuff like that. It all felt like it makes sense.
Yeah.
Can't really spoil much of that.
No, but it's a good source of dramatic tension. Again, you play up the characters a little bit there.
Yeah. And it never really ceases.
Right. I mean,
it kind of does. It kind of resolves a little forcefully.
mm-hmm.
It felt like they didn't really. There was like one small event that just kind of like healed a wound that didn't feel like that would heal that wound.
Mm-hmm.
But like I feel like the setup was really good.
Yeah.
But kind of bleeding into the bat a little bit. Like
mm-hmm.
the execution or the conclusion of it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
I feel like I keep talking about specific stuff, which is not great for non-spoilers.
No, I see what you're saying. I think in general, that's a symptom of the bigger problem. The one big problem that I have with the movie is that it simultaneously had too much and not enough going on thematically.
Okay.
So like at its core, it's trying to basically just be a family movie.
Yeah.
And it's about the family dynamics and what makes a family, and trust and loyalty and betrayal and things like that,
Yeah.
Good normal family stuff. And it spent some time on that. That was kind of the core focus, but it starts leaning into a whole bunch of other themes about control versus freedom and regret and some of the sort of the guilt and the self-perpetuating nature of violence. We'll get into it more in spoilers. But there was a lot of things that it would sort of reach out and just touch some ideas on, but never really go anywhere. And I think on the whole that broadened it out too much to where it wasn't able to come to a nice focused conclusion on its core family stuff.
Gotcha.
That was my thinking on that.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. First time.
What else?
What
didn't I like? I think the thing that kind of brought it down for me was, I mean, Disney had said that this was going to be a spy movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then also Disney had said that Multiverse of Madness is going to be a horror movie.
Right.
And then we found out that it's not really going to be a horror movie. It's going to be a superhero movie that's like, oh, scary maybe.
Ooh.
And so I kind of went into this like hoping that it was going to be a spy movie, but like also expecting it to be a superhero movie that's kind of a spy movie.
A Mission Impossible movie.
Mission Impossible.
Exactly.
And the first 15 minutes absolutely convinced me that it was going to be an actual spy movie, like with some action bits.
Oh no, you poor boy.
And then it just like on a dime switched to just a superhero movie with spy stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm currently on a giant bender of espionage. I have found my new. I'll have mentioned it or will have mentioned it. I will have mentioned it maybe in our episode, our Watch Been Up To episode coming out.
Will have.
I have mentioned, because that'll probably come out before this.
Okay.
I have mentioned.
Okay.
That my new favorite genre is espionage.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just unfair for the movie.
Yeah.
That I went into it like going, oh, espionage is such a great genre, and then expecting that to be espionage, but it's a Disney movie.
No, it totally wasn't.
So I'll probably need to like get off my espionage high horse and then watch the movie again, and it'll probably go up in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I mean, also the first 15 minutes did a good job of making it seem like it was going to be more like
right
spy-y, and
right.
then it didn't really become that. It felt more linear than a spy movie should be.
Yeah, no, it totally wasn't a spy movie.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like a spy movie. We're gonna do an episode on this eventually.
Some point.
I feel like a spy movie pulls on different threads into a singular point.
Mm-hmm.
But a movie like this, which is an action movie with some spy stuff, is a linear point to point to point to point.
Exactly.
And that's
just get to the next action set piece.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fine when that's what it's doing.
Yeah. You just gotta suck it up and deal with it when a movie decides that that's what it wants to be.
Yep.
Buster.
hey, look, man, I went into it with like the box. I was like ready to put the movie in a box, and then I put the movie in the box, and I was like, it's gonna be this, and that's why I was disappointed. Is because it was like, it's gonna be this, and then it was a different box.
You had to take it out of that box and put it back in the other box.
Yeah, but I don't want to spend the whole movie like just moving it from box to box, because that's when you get a bad movie that is Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
I have a couple other criticisms that I think I'm gonna have to say for spoilers. Generally, my biggest one was the themes.
Yeah.
Was my biggest problem.
I felt like there was an inconsistency in ability.
Yeah, I could see that.
There was a lot of times where like it was an action piece where when Nat needed to win, she won, and when she needed to lose, she lost, and it had nothing to do with her opponent's ability.
There was a particular moment that really struck me where she's having an action set piece against another widow, and they both fall from a comparable height, and Nat gets up and is completely fine, and the other widow is like
shattered leg,
coughing up her last breaths, and it didn't quite ring true,
right?
And I think that was one of the problems that brought the action from great down to good.
Yeah, and in general, like a lot of movies do this, and I always notice when they do it, where if there's a character fighting one character, they're matched, and then if the character is fighting a bunch of a similar character, then suddenly they're like way better than any one of them individually, and it takes the entire mob to bring them down. And it's just like, how good is this character? Is this character supposed to be great, or are they just like adequate?
The writer knows.
The writer knows, and the writer wants them to be what the writer wants them to be.
Exactly.
So that was a problem I had. That was very prevalent to me at the end.
I have a rebuttal, but we'll save it for spoilers.
Okay. I also don't know how I feel about revealing things only when they become relevant. And it did a lot of that in Act 3.
Yeah.
The movie had set itself on a track of like had kind of set up the way it's going to give you information,
right?
And then it changes it in Act 3 how it's going to give you information, and like I don't know, it kind of threw me off, and I was just like a little annoyed a couple times where someone says something, and I was like, "What? When was this explained?"
Right?
But then they explain it in a different way that was different to, I mean, it's not really a spoiler. They explain it in a flashback.
Right.
They start showing flashbacks in the last third of the movie, and I'm just like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it was a little unsatisfying.
So Ocean's 11 does it well, where basically they start the heist 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
And the whole movie is heist, flashback, heist, flashback, heist, flashback. That's the movie. And then like this one does it like right at the end, and does it make sense how it was conflicting, how like it just,
it did feel pretty jarring.
Yeah, so that was something that caught me off guard at the end. I feel like I was just less satisfied about the conclusion of the story in general.
Yeah,
it was like this movie was more fun getting to the end,
right?
But like I don't know,
it was a Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah, I guess I've kind of always felt that about those.
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, it was a really fun journey. The conclusion was lackluster, but
it just kind of ended, you know.
Yeah, and what happened at the end? I'm starting to like piece together all of my issues with like the last 10 minutes. But we'll get to that in spoilers.
Yeah.
It's a lot of spoilers. So what was ugly? Certainly not the cast in general.
No. You could make an argument that David Harbour is not conventionally attractive. But...
Oh, that was another thing, by the way. De-aging. Seamless. Like, I know it's been seamless, but like young David Harbour, like, just like, he's not even an old man.
No.
But like, just, they just
tweaked him a little bit.
Just, I was like, I don't know. I mean, I know that this isn't the first movie it's been this good. It was fantastic with Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
And it blows me away every single time.
Yeah.
And it makes me excited every time I see it. And I'm just like, I cannot wait until we just get, like, she'll probably die sometime soon, but Maggie
Smith.
Get like a young Maggie Smith. Are you like, dude?
Yeah. No, speaking of David Harbour, that was one of my criticisms, is he is kind of around at the beginning of the movie and then disappears for a while, and then he pops back up about halfway through, and it feels like a completely different character. And I think there's some in-story reasons for that, but it just to the core, it felt like there were some major differences there.
Yeah.
It was a little like trying to reconcile the versions there. It's kind of tough.
No, I could see that. He felt he had a lot of really interesting story threads happening early on, including like, that was another thing I was thinking about the entire movie. Jumping back to good, very well done with character flaws. Like every character had their flaws and they all felt real, and like they added consequence and tension to the story. Like with David Harbour's character, like his flaw was pretty much explicitly stated by Florence Pugh's character, by Elena. But like it still was a good flaw for him to have.
Right.
And it was just like all the, a lot of really good character flaws.
Yep.
But yes, no, David Harbour had I feel like he had a lot of really cool plot threads happening early, and then there was no character arc.
Yeah.
Like they just kind of disappeared.
Yeah. Well, they started a separate character arc when he showed back up, because it was a new character, basically.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I mean, he's still great as both separate versions, I guess. Now he's like Jekyll and Hyde or something. But
so what's ugly?
The big one is spoilery. I mean, this is basically just a completely made up plot.
Yeah.
The like behind the scenes villain is not from the comics. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a completely different movie at this point, and we know this about the MCUs.
They go very original.
Very original. They have full control of their material now.
Red Guardian. Anything about Red Guardian that's...
He exists in the comics.
Okay.
Let's do a little Wikipediaing real quick, why don't we?
Well, one ugly for sure is that in the comics, he fought alongside, and I guess against Captain America. But in the movie, there was actually kind of an interesting story or interesting like dialogue with him. He's like, "Yeah, I fought Captain America. I used his shield against him." And then a guy was like, "Captain America was still on ice at the time of what the story that you're saying took place." And it's just like, so he never actually he was like living in a shadow of a character that was not around when he was around.
At one point in the comics, the Alexei Shostakov, the version from the movie, was the husband of Natasha Romanoff.
Oh!
Yeah. No, I mean, there have been a bunch of different versions. Yeah. It's basically just the Soviet super soldier counteracting Captain America.
Well, this is embarrassing. We don't know very much about... We gotta prepare for these more. I gotta get on my... Suicide Squad readings.
Yeah. No. Basically, original plot, but a lot of characters follow roughly their original trajectories. Red Guardian is the anti-Captain America because Cold War.
Yep.
Escalation there. Yelena Belova is the Red Room assassin who was trained at the same place and eventually would go on to become Black Widow, which she may end up being on some sort of trajectory like that at some point in the MCU.
Yeah. Yep. That's absolutely what's going to happen. Based on the post-credit scene, that's absolutely what's going to happen. She's... Spoilers for Endgame, I guess, because we know someone personally who hasn't seen it yet. But... Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Not a whole lot of ugly. That's
I mean,
fine.
there's one big one that I have to say for spoilers.
All right. Matt, what'd you rate it?
Coming out of the theater, I was like between an 8 and a 9, honestly.
Woo, okay.
Yeah. I've settled on a solid 8.
Okay.
I have enough major criticisms, and it hasn't lingered with me the way I would expect a 9 to.
Yeah.
But it is a very good movie. I will actively try to seek out another opportunity to see it in the theater.
Okay. I'm probably putting it around a 7.
Okay.
Strong 7. So like, it's a 7 that can see the dome of the 8, basically.
Sure. We'll go with it.
I will see it again. Kaylin wants to see it. She couldn't go with us. It's just that it was a good movie, but it didn't seem to like really scratch a lot of itches of mine that I expect from a great movie. I think.
Okay.
It will probably kind of inflate to an 8 a little bit. Maybe once I see it again and like.
Yeah.
I just think that like the resolution of the plot kind of left me unsatisfied.
That's fair.
Which brings it down a lot in my ratings. If the story had resolved better, and I don't know how it would have resolved better. If I had more time to think about it, we know that I like to like, do that kind of stuff. If I had more time to think about it, I can think about a way that it could end better. But I just know that I walked out kind of going, the ending.
All right.
Not fully sold on it.
Fair enough.
And also the post-credit scene, I have a fundamental problem with.
We'll get into it.
Talking about spoilers.
Hey everyone, Matt here. Hope you've been enjoying this video. If you want to hear the fuller version of this discussion, you can find that on our audio-only podcast. That's going to be wherever you listen to your podcasts, be it SoundCloud or Spotify or iTunes or iHeartRadio. Appreciate you watching this far, and we hope you listen on further.